want to apologize to Major Richard Reese for not recognizing. I didn't see you come in. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to let you know that on the back of the program is more information about SET in the event that you would like to contribute. Before I invite Marguerite Orain to introduce our guest speaker, I wanted to let you know that on the tables are some question and answer forms. If you have a question that you'd like to ask the professor, you can turn those in. And one other word, as an Akron, Ohio native, professor was talking about being in Ohio for the primaries. And he said that where Hillary was in Ohio, and there was Hillary and there was Bill and Chelsea. They could spread out over the state. With Barack, you only had Barack, so they had to run around the state very fast. And I also said that every time I'm sitting and watching the news with my husband, they start talking about how important Ohio is. I say, see how important we Ohioans are in the world? It is my great pleasure now to ask Marguerite Orain to introduce our guest speaker.
Mrs. Becky Stockhausen, Executive Director of AmCham, and the chair of today's function, Professor Charles Ogletree of the Harvard Law School, Mark Anderson, and Kevin Wallen, friends and family of SET, and members and friends of AmCham. The second of 6 children born to an African-American couple in California in 1952, Charles Ogletree had instilled into him very early the transformative power of education. His parents, now deceased, did not complete high school and were therefore delighted that they lived to see their second child graduate from Stanford and Harvard universities and go on to a stellar career as the Jesse Clemenko Professor of Law at the Harvard Law School. Author of numerous publications and recipient of countless honors and awards, Professor Ogletree is a prominent legal theorist who has made an international reputation by taking a hard look at complex issues of law and by working to secure the rights guaranteed by the Constitution for everyone equally under the law. He has examined these issues not only in the classroom, on the internet, and in the pages of prestigious law journals, but also in the everyday world of the public defender in the courtroom and in public television fora, where these issues can be dramatically revealed. He furthers dialogue by insisting that the justice system protect rights guaranteed to citizens by law, and to this end he established the Charles Hamilton Houston Institute for Race and Justice at the Harvard Law School in 2005. It is this perspective and passion that piqued his interest in the prison system in Jamaica, the plight of prisoners and the possibilities for their rehabilitation. First involved in 1989 in the Reverence for Life Prison Project, Professor Ogletree continues today to play an active role in the SET project. Professor Ogletree and his wife, fellow Stanford alum Pamela Barnes, are proud parents of 2 children. They are true friends of Jamaica, visiting and vacationing here regularly. Enjoying our beautiful beaches in Negril and fishing in Portland, they particularly savor our spicy cuisine, hot pepper, coconut water, and of course, red striped bear. In 1988, Professor Ogletree met a young student in his Harvard law class. He saw something in that young man then, both having come from disadvantaged backgrounds, yet ending up at the most prestigious law school in the United States, and many would say the world. Professor Ogletree became that student's mentor, navigating him very successfully through the maze that faces an African American at Harvard. When that former student decided to run for the presidency of the United States of America, Charles Ogletree himself stepped up to the plate as one of his senior advisors. That presidential candidate is, of course, Senator Barack Obama. Please join me in welcoming Professor Charles Ogletree, Jr., advocate for equality and justice for all, and a friend of Jamaica.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here at this luncheon and have a chance to talk to the American Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank Becky Stockhausen for inviting me, and particularly thank Marguerite for that wonderful introduction. She, too, is a Harvard graduate from the Harvard Business School. And the one thing she didn't like is that we have seasons. And she was not pleased to be in Cambridge in the winter. And she let me know that with great aplomb. I also want to salute Major Reese. It was good to see him and to see him here today. We saw him yesterday, but I've seen him many times. As a man of vision and of reason, it's hard to work in corrections and not understand what that word means. The idea is not to just be punitive, but try to correct behavior, to give people a second chance. And Major Reese comes at it with the attitude that he's going to help those men become productive members of this great country of Jamaica. And he and the minister were there yesterday at Tower Street, and he told them something that they needed to know, that in this past period of time in the prison in Tower Street, there's been a 50% decrease in crimes of violence. So it tells you when you give people a chance, it makes a difference. And I hope you'll join me in applauding Major Reese for his great leadership here in Jamaica. And I want to say a word about Kevin Wallen as well. He is really a legend already in this great country, and I hope you can appreciate what he has done. Kevin did not receive the education he should have received here in Jamaica. He went to Canada. He finally went back to school, got his degree, became a very successful entrepreneur, and then got involved in SET. And you talk about sacrifice. It was a very successful business that he ran until he started SET. He has spent his money, his resources, and the tolerance of his wife by making sure that SET gets going at the expense of all the other things that he does. And you see him in the prison every week talking to people about discipline, about love, about self-respect. And because of that, I could see yesterday what I saw a decade ago and 15 years ago, men being transformed right before your eyes, really understanding, talking about what they'd done, how wrong they were, what damage they'd done to their own community, their neighborhoods, their friends, their family. And now they're in the process of not only recognizing it, but wanting to do something about it. They're on the radio with gospel or reggae and even some country and western music. I'm not sure where that comes from. But they have this sense of spirit and dialogue about themselves, and they want to help to make Jamaica a better country. And they're doing that because of the spirit of Kevin Wallen and his great staff who are here. So I hope you will join me in congratulating and saluting Kevin Wallen for the great work he's done here in Jamaica. I love Jamaica. I feel like I'm a cousin of Jamaica. I've been here so many times. This was the destination of choice for me and my wife when we were first married and moved to the East Coast. And our children didn't like it because we would come here every summer and leave them with relatives. And finally, when they were old enough, we did bring them here once, but they keep saying, how do you keep going to Jamaica every year and forget your kids? And we did, because we had a great time here in Kingston and Mobay and the Grill and other places. It's always been wonderful. And it's also been wonderful coming back with a different point of view, coming back and going to the prison. I met many of you who know Desmond Green more than a decade ago with the Reverence for Life program. But I was here even before that. Some of you may recall that in the 1990s, when Bill Clinton was our president, I came here with great honor with Congresswoman Maxine Waters, with my dear friend Randall Robinson from Trans-Africa, with the actor and activist Danny Glover, talking about the idea of coming up with some support for the banana industry in the Caribbean. And it was amazing when you think about how small something like that may appear now, but the reality is that people in the Caribbean, here in Dominica and St. Lucia and Antigua, were growing bananas, and independent employers, entrepreneurs just like you, and not involved in the drug trade or other things that might have been destructive to the island. And that becomes important because it tells you when people are given a chance of hope, some faith in their ability, they will make a difference in society. And it breaks my heart that corporate greed and other entrepreneur issues overwhelm the ability of the Caribbean islands to do the work that they wanted to do, to be independent, self-sustaining, and able to stand on their own 2 feet. And I think that's part of the challenge that we need going forward to talk about it. And I want to talk about, in the little time that I have, and I'll be happy to answer your questions, the idea of believing in the impossible. And I want to tie that to my former student, Senator Barack Obama. But as much as I'm proud of him, I must admit that before I met him, I met his wife. Michelle Robinson Obama came to Harvard Law School in 1985. And you watch them on TV, you'll see them on YouTube, you'll read about them, but my sense is that people don't really understand who they are. They're not the celebrities, they're not the rock stars. They're somebody else. They're people who have been transformed by their poverty and by the sense of hopelessness, and now they have become not just national but global leaders. Michelle came to Harvard in 1985. She and her brother had gone to Princeton University. They are from a family from the south side of Chicago, one of the poorer areas. Her father never went to college, but you know what? He said, I'm going to lift my children up and give them the chance I never had. He was a union organizer, but he didn't have the ability to really support and sustain them, but he gave them faith, he gave them prayer, he gave them hope, and she went to Princeton and then came to Harvard Law School in 1985. Barack Obama, we know him as the first African American to be the president of the Harvard Law Review, the most prestigious organization of students at Harvard Law School. We know him as a senator from Illinois. We know him as the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States of America. But what you don't really understand, if you really know Barack Obama, is that he didn't start there. That's where he is now. Barack Obama is the son of an African from Kenya and a white woman from Kansas. He's the son of a father he barely knew. His father had no meaningful access in his life as he grew up. He's the son of a mother who was a teenage pregnant mother. He's the son of a mother who raised him with faith and with pride and with hope, and indeed a mother who didn't have health insurance to help her fight the evils of ill health and who died in her early 50s. He was a son who was raised not in the comfort of Chicago or even Hawaii, but with grandparents in different parts of the world. And despite all that, if I were to take his name away and say, what happens to a young man anywhere in the world whose father disappears, whose mother has him as a teenager, whose mother dies at an early age because of the lack of health, where would that person be 40 years later? You'd say dead or in jail. But there was a sense of faith that he had and they had in him. And they nurtured him, they supported him. And I say that because it's exactly what we face today in the Americas and throughout the Caribbean. We can't afford to give up on one single child. We have no idea where they'll be tomorrow, but we do know this: if we make a commitment to lift them up, to help them climb, think of what they can do to make this country a different place. And so when you see Barack Obama that night on November 4th, 2008, when he's elected, I want you to see not just the person who, with all the glory and all the fandom, but look how far he's come. When you see Michelle on January 20th, 2009, holding the Bible for him when he's sworn in, I want you to see how far she's come. When you see those two little black girls, neither of them a teenager yet, standing beside their parents on the Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., they will be able to say there's nothing they can do. And I want a child born in Kingston or Montego Bay, born in Haiti, born in Panama City, born anywhere in America to be able to say, yes, I can. They can too, because somebody cared for them, somebody had faith in them, and somebody gave them the hope and the opportunity to make a difference. Let me tell you what I think Barack Obama means to not just America, but to the world. He's a man who said, before it was popular, in 2002, he said in 2002, less than 1 year after the tragedy of September 11, 2001, that we should not be fighting in Iraq. It wasn't easy to say it in 2002 because we were still, I know I was still simmering from the travesty of September 11th, 2001. I had friends who died in that tragic assault by some unknown assailants in New York and in Washington, D.C., and of course in Pennsylvania. I was angry, and I had to realize that God had said, vengeance is mine, not mine, but his, and not be bitter, even though I felt stunned that my friends lost their lives in the towers in New York. But Barack Obama had to stand up courageously and say, this is a bad idea. And I say that to say that that tells us about his character and about his judgment. It's important to think about it for this reason. When you start thinking about the fact that we're spending billions, literally billions of dollars every month on a war in Iraq, think of what we could do with that money in terms of education, healthcare, housing, employment. Think of how we could not just transform America, but transform all of this global community. Think of what Senator Obama's aide said yesterday, talking about Jamaica in particular, when he said, when you talk about debt relief, Senator Obama is already looking at Jamaica as a place where that has to happen. Think of what you can do as business leaders. Be careful, because Barack Obama is from the Martin Luther King Jr. School. He doesn't believe in handouts, but hand up, to help people to rise above the challenges that they face. And it seems to me there's no place better suited in the Caribbean to plant that seed of opportunity, of hope and prosperity, than right here in Jamaica. To show people like Kevin Wallen going into the prisons, to say we can't waste even those prisoners, because they too can do some work, whether it's painting fences or cutting grass. Maybe not with children, maybe not in national security, but we can't lose that labor as an asset. Think of the work that the great CEO of Paymaster is doing, and what she's doing, hiring over 400 people, but also serving a broad community throughout Jamaica, saying, yes, we're not exporting money, we're investing in ourselves because we believe in our people. Think of what you're doing and all the business experiences going on right here. And it seems to me that one of the great opportunities available now is to look at what Barack Obama said about education, about the environment, about energy, about the economy, about trade, and how much he is committed to trying to make not just America better, but make the world better. And he can't do it alone. There are a lot of people who are supporting him, as am I. I've traveled all over the country, in the United States, going to state after state, trying to persuade people to vote. And I've seen both the triumph and tragedy of general elections. The triumph is that people are voting, but the tragedy is that even now we still see people who are black and brown and who are poor who can't vote, whose votes aren't counted, who are turned away from the polls, and we can't allow that to happen. We still see people who are profiled because of the color of their skin. We still see a criminal justice system in the United States that's broken. Barack Obama was a state senator when we discovered in the year 2000 in the state of Illinois, his home state for much of his life, that there were 25 people on death row. These are all people who had lawyers. They were prosecuted. There were jury trials. They were convicted. They were sentenced. They were placed on death row. And the governor then, George Ryan, decided to look at those cases to see if there was a fair justice system. And what we learned in Illinois, not in Alabama, not in Mississippi, not some southern sense of bias, but in a Midwestern, popular, democratic, progressive state, is that after these cases were examined, not just by lawyers, but some by journalists who were very curious to try to get to the bottom of it, that 13 of the 25 people who were on death row were actually completely innocent. That is, it's not that they were just not guilty, they were the wrong person. But the rush to judgment, the lawyer who didn't do a little investigation, the prosecutor who didn't question whether or not an informant was telling the truth, a witness who had a mistaken but firm belief that that's the man who did it. 13 were completely innocent on death row. And so what did Barack Obama do? Not only did the governor commute those sentences and release those men who were on death row because they were innocent, but he went further, Barack Obama did, by introducing legislation to say, let's not let that happen again. If people are guilty of crimes, let's tape every confession. If the evidence is there, let's prove it. And that's the whole idea. Barack Obama is not in jail. He's not a prisoner. He hasn't committed a crime. But his point is that I don't want to have a single person on my watch ever face the risk of being incarcerated for something they did not do. We just can't afford to make that mistake. Let me say this as well in terms of the opportunity. I've had a wonderful opportunity of working with Senator Obama and traveling around the states and seeing people get fired up. And I've had some tough love with my own students and telling them, be careful. Barack Obama is not a rock star. He's not a false person. He is a chosen leader. He's a proven leader. But he's a real man with real challenges, with real hopes and real dreams and real disappointments. So don't get excited about him, because if you do, when something goes wrong, you'll move away. See him as a real, concrete man with all of his strengths and challenges and what he can do to make not just America better, but the world better. And I have to say that Barack Obama, and he would not like me saying this, but he is not flawless. He does have a little bit of a flaw. And he thought this story would have been buried some 19 years ago because he'd graduated from law school and he's gone on, and I would never tell it. And I'm not going to tell it publicly. So you don't hear this. But in 1991, we had a group of law students, black law students at Harvard Law School, great basketball players. And all of these young men now are doing amazing things in public service. Hill Harper is an actor now. He graduated from Harvard Law School. He's an actor in California. Earl Martin Phelan, another African-American, was abandoned by his African-American mother when he was born. He was raised by a white family, went to Yale College and Harvard Law School. And others. And we played a basketball game, Major Reese, at something called Walpole. Now, that's not a law school. It's not a university. It's a maximum security prison in Massachusetts. And so what these young men didn't realize is when you go into prison, all those things in your pocket had to come off your body, even gum. You couldn't take anything in. And you were literally locked in the prison. The gym was below ground. It was below. And Barack was our center, and a good player. He's an excellent basketball player, great shooter, left-handed, a sort of funny little jump shot, but it scores. He's very good. And so Barack Obama, in the sense of love and friendship, before the game started, went over to greet the brother who was the center on the other team at Walpole. And Barack said, "How you doing? Good luck. Wish you the best." And Barack then made the mistake. He said, "Brother, what you in here for?" The brother said, "Double murder." Well, that game, Barack Obama played no defense. They scored 40 points over him. He gave them the ball. He didn't lose the ball. I said, "Barack, what in the world are you doing?" He says, "I'm trying to show them some respect, Professor Ogletree." So maybe he was right. Maybe this was all a test to show how smart he was, that even in adversity, he's given a brother his respect. But I think it might have had something to do with something other than just simply respect. And I'm not going to use the word fear, but he safely left the prison that day, graduated from law school, went back as a community organizer, went on to the state senate, U.S. Senate, and will be the next president of the United States of America. And when you see him, just say the word Senator Obama, President Obama, just say Walpole. He said, "Tree told you that?" Right? So it's just among friends. But I want to conclude by saying this. One of the amazing things about Jamaica is that it's the most friendly country you can imagine. No matter the poverty, no matter the lack of equal opportunity, there is a sense of people loving their country and having pride in their country, and we see that. I know it the most because I don't speak patois, but I know everywhere I go, people are talking to me just like I'm Jamaican. I'm nodding, saying, "Okay." And then they expect me to do something else. It's, "Oh, I have to pay for that. I see what you're saying now." So I feel completely accepted as opposed to wondering what I'm like without making a judgment about it. But I do hope that this American Chamber of Commerce will take it upon itself to reach out to the senator now, to invite him to this great country, to talk about the efforts you're making to transform the Caribbean, to talk about the importance of relationships. I have to tell you, there are a whole lot of people in line ahead of you because they want to do that, but you shouldn't wait to see whether or not he's interested in you. You should understand that there's a sense of him wanting to know what Jamaica's vision for the future. And I have to tell the ambassador from the United States, it's interesting. I can't tell you how many people have already tried to bribe me. "Hey, you think I can be the ambassador to Jamaica?" I said, wait a minute. Believe me, you'd be amazed at the level of people who are eager to come here to be the ambassador to Jamaica. And if I just charged $10 for everyone who applied, I could take care of the whole Jamaican economy. Because it is that since the people can see a change in the air, a different opportunity, an amazing sense that now is our time. And I hope that you will pray for him. I hope that you will keep him in your thoughts. I hope you will pray for us. because the battle is long. I hope you'll pray that we'll have a new policy, a new set of values, a new openness to the idea that we're not isolated from the rest of the world, that we will respect people despite their religion, their national origin, their race, their gender, their class, that we won't judge people based on presumptions about who they are and what they mean, that we will be an open government that's willing to fight a war if we have to, but have the common sense not to fight one that doesn't make sense, and that you will appreciate the fact that we are a nation committed to justice. I want to end with this. Most of you are familiar with many aspects of spirituality, and Barack is a very spiritual person, as you can tell from his book, The Audacity of Hope, and even Dreams from My Father, his 2 books. And I think about him when I think about a verse in the Holy Bible, in the 6th chapter of the book of Isaiah. And it reminds me of Isaiah, many call the reluctant prophet. Someone who said, well, it's not my time, somebody else should do it, I don't think I can take it on. But that's not what happens in the 6th chapter of the book of Isaiah. And then I heard the Lord say, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here am I. Send me. Think about that. Here am I. Send me. Barack Obama in the year 2008 is saying that. He realizes this is the toughest time in the world ever. He realizes being the president is the most difficult job in America, and the time couldn't be more of a challenge. And he realizes that there are so many people who are telling him it's not his time, but there's so many others who are telling him that it is our time to decide what sort of leadership we want in the 21st century. And he realizes, as he did when he was at Harvard Law School and the president of the Harvard Law Review, he could have clerked for our Supreme Court, the most prestigious job available to any law student who graduates from Harvard Law School. He realized he could have gone to a law firm in New York and made $100,000 US a year. And he turned down both, saying, no, I made a promise and of commitment to make not just America better, but the world better. And it's in that spirit, as I think about Barack Obama, that I urge all of you to think about what we can do. Don't give up on our young people. Don't think that they can't make it. And it's time for us, those of us like me with our AARP card in our pocket, that's the American Association for Retired Persons. I haven't retired yet, but I got a card anyway when I hit 50. I didn't ask for it, didn't even apply for it. It just came. It came in the mail. And I think that was my signal. Here's your card. It's also, it's time to step aside for the next level of leadership. In August, I'll be in Denver watching Barack Obama give his acceptance speech as the Democratic nominee for president. But when I'm not watching Barack Obama, my eyes will be glued to the television because I'll be watching something going on in China. What's going on in China is that I think you're going to see this country, the country of Jamaica, have more gold medals in the U.S. Olympic and the World Olympics than they've ever had before. And to get that started, I want to give the first gold medal to Kevin Wallen before I step down. Now Kevin's not a 100 meters guy. He's not a long jumper. But he is a person who believes in distance in the marathon. And Kevin, I want you to know that from the work that you have done for my institute, I commit to you and to Set, on behalf of your sacrifice from my own personal capacity, $5,000 US for Set and for your great work. God bless you. God, thank you very much.